So tell me about your research, Al. If you were to bump into someone at a party and they said, so what do you do, Dr. Al? What do you say to them?
Well, I'll tell them that I build reefs is kind of the baseline of what I try to do. The way that I do build reefs is I look at different materials, I look at different approaches. More recently, as part of my PhD, it was looking at building mussel reefs and trying to figure out optimal ways of doing that. And through that, I've learned sort of what considerations we need to in order to try and achieve that, but also learning a lot about just the biology and the ecology of the systems that we work in. A lot of my sites, I've been more interested in fish predation, large mobile species, things that are swimming around quite freely in the water column. Fish, rays, octopus, trying to understand those kinds of relationships. And specifically, looking at those relationships both in a context of time, but also in the context of space. So in time, different times of year, certain species of fish might migrate towards the shallower waters when it's warm. But then when it gets cold, sort of during winter, they might migrate to deeper waters, leaving the areas where we might want to target restoration with less predators around.
So predation, why is predation such a problem? What do you do about it?
So it is a natural part of the process. However, when you're trying to get mussels to establish in a new system, you kind of want as many of them to survive as possible. And so understanding what predator populations are doing and how they're interacting with this newly introduced food source is, in my mind, quite an important thing to try and understand.
So what's the exact kind of title of your hypothesis around the predation for your PhD, which you've completed?
So the premise of that was, is there an optimal sort of window of opportunity that we can deploy in time, where we can deploy these mussels where they'll be less impacted by predators, under the premise that there will be fewer about. So it's not very concise, but that's kind of the general idea. And so that's kind of what I figured out in my PhD, and using time-lapse photography and repeated deployments to the same area, we did find that the mussel survival initially was much higher during these cooler times of year when predators were absent or less abundant within that system.
And has that information been fed back into the deployment process?
Yeah. So that's one part of our understanding of, okay, when is the best time of year for this? And so we do try and aim for those times of year when it's a bit cooler. There's additional benefits to that as well. Cooler times of year might make it easier and less stressful for the mussels to be transported from their sites of collection to the sites of deployment. So beyond the aspect of predation, there's additional benefits that we think are happening as well. And that's led us into trying to take some of the methods I learned from looking at predator numbers in time. We're also now looking at predator numbers in space. These populations of predators vary spatially and spatiotemporally, and so breaking it down can be quite difficult. It's quite complex. And so that's led into my current postdoctoral research, where I'm trying to look at these small variations and snapshots in time at a bunch of different sites to say, okay, there are more or less predators in these areas to help us refine, how we select sites that we consider suitable for restoration.
What's your relationship to mussels? I mean, how do you see them after an intense amount of years just focused on this one species? How do you feel about mussels?
I think that mussels are a pretty incredible organism in terms of their capacity to provide so many different services, whether that's filtering water, providing habitat, providing food, providing kaiwana to communities, coastal communities. I think we're asking a huge thing from the mussels in order to do this kind of work. There's been so much change in the moana and the tikapa moana and we're asking mussels to do a big job to help us correct some of that change that we feel is attributed to some of the things that we as humans have done.
And what led you to marine science and reefs particularly? What is it about your background and where you grew up and where you're from that got you? Can you see a clear line between there and here?
Yeah, so I grew up, I had the fortune of getting my dive certification when I turned 10. And
10 years old?
10 years old.
Wow.
So I've been diving since I was 10. And we grew up diving on around the Bay Islands, Honduras. And so that was the window to the marine world where I got to see sort of the dynamism of a coral reef ecosystem. And it was upon subsequent trips that within my own lifetime, a short lifetime up to this point, even, that I saw the degradation of these reefs, in part due to climate change, in part due to stressors from the land and things like that. And through that, I was moved to do something within environmental science to help address some of those issues. And it wasn't until actually partway through my undergrad, I'd initially never wanted to do marine science. I wanted to keep scuba diving as a hobby. But it wasn't until I actually started to notice these things and apply some of the learnings that I had during my undergraduate experience that I decided that I really wanted to pursue it. And I got an opportunity through my undergraduate to do a bit of research at that reef in Roatan, looking at invasive lionfish. And I remember we were on the boat. It was about 5:36 in the morning, and the sun was coming up behind these emerald mountains of this beautiful island, Roatan. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was just an epiphany where I said, this is what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. And it's been trying to figure out how to get from there to where I'm at now. And it's been a really long and winding journey. But that's what really motivated me to want to work with reefs at a whole scale. Wanted to build reefs, restore reefs, conserve reefs in any way that I could, so that I could have that, so that the experience that I had when I was a kid, when I was 10 years old, and seeing the movement and dynamism of fish around the coral reefs and the colors and everything, so I could share that with my kids one day and my grandkids one day.
That's great. Finally, do you have hope for the restoration project, for the wider restoration project of the globe and the place that we live?
Yeah, I definitely do. I definitely feel like, yes, I think the more time I've spent in restoration, the more cynical you do become. However, I also am a firm believer that we as a species, looking at it from a very meta perspective, we as a species have the capacity, we have the technology and the understanding and the breadth of our lived experiences to do these. It's a matter of to combat the challenges that we face. It's a matter of being a bit more unified in how we sort of approach this, or at least in how we prioritize our, bits out, our environment. And so that's what I have hope for, the fact that we do have the ability to help and to do something about it. And that's why I do what I do, because I know that I can. I know that I can try, and it would be a shame that I didn't try and apply the knowledge that I've gained over these years towards some of that. So I do have hope. I think it's a tremendous amount of work, and it will require a tremendous amount of patience, and it will require letting go of the idea that it might happen within my lifetime, that I'm a very, very small part in the steps that it's going to take to getting to a more harmonious coexistence with the natural world.
Oh, thank you.
Cheers.